Hi and welcome to Mancave Projects. So the project I'm going to be starting today is a workshop. I'm going to be building that at the side of the house, in quite a tight spot. It's for our twin sons who are both apprentice engineers with Jaguar Land Rover. Bought them a drift car project about 3 or 4 weeks ago, which is a Mazda RX-8. It's a non-runner, needs a new engine, so they've got a lot of work to do to get this car up and running, and obviously they need somewhere undercover to do that, so that's why I'm building them this workshop. As I said, it is in quite a tight spot. It's going to be interesting to do, so let's crack on and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, so this is a project car, the Mazda RX-8. This is usually what Mazda RX-8s look like, not that reliable, so mostly undercover on axle stands. But I'm 100% confident that our twins can get this up and running and turn it into a decent drift car. So this is the space we have available down the side of the house for the workshop. There's currently a 6x4 old wooden shed there, which just isn't secure enough. It's not big enough either. Quite a tight space, as I said. So we've got 1.6 meters in width available to us and 3.7 meters in length, but we've also got that downpipe, that's surface water downpipe to get around as well, so we're going to have to work out how we're going to do that. So this is what I'm making the frame out of for this workshop. It's the cheapest wood I could possibly find. It's basically stud wall timber, so it's 38mm by 63mm, 2.4 meters in length, £2.50 a length from Wicks in the UK, and then I've got trade cards, so there's 10% discount off that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be building is the floor for this workshop. As with any job like this, or whether I'm doing a tiling job, it doesn't really matter. I always like to physically lay the job out first, just like a dry fit, just to make sure that I know what I'm doing, everything's in place. And especially with a job like this, it's a great way to see where the cuts are going to be, how much waste you've got, and you can plan the job so you actually get very little waste. So these are the cross members for the floor, and they are spaced out at what's called 16-inch centres, which is basically what you do if you're building a studded wall as well. So I want to show you what I mean by 16-inch centres and how to mark them out. So on a standard tape measure, every 16 inches it will be highlighted, normally in red, so all of the other numbers are in black, and then where it's highlighted that will be in red. And with this particular tape measure, it has a box around it as well with a peak on the top, and as you go along the tape measure, again highlighted in red again, these 16-inch centres will be marked, and that's just for ease of use. And the reason for marking out at 16-inch centres is because I'm using what's called 8x4 sheets, so roughly 8 foot by 4 foot. They're actually metric in the UK, so slightly different. And because I'm using 8x4 sheets, when I come to the edge of a sheet of material, I want that edge to land in the centre of one of these cross members, or if this was a studded wall, and it's exactly the same principle for doing a studded wall, you'd want the upright, the actual sheet of material, to come in the centre of the upright so that you can screw down this particular sheet. You've got some wood under it, and then when the next sheet of material comes to butt up to that first sheet, you've got wood under this side as well, so you can screw it down as well. So the way to measure is because the sheet material will come to the outside edge here, that's where you start your measurement. So the outside edge of this particular cross member, and you come in to 60 an inch into the center of this cross member. So it's the outside edge of this one, the center of this one, and this is obviously the first one, so this is where you start. And then your next measurement is from the center of this cross member to the center of this cross member, and then you just carry that on all the way to the end of the job, and that way you'll be guaranteed that when you put your 8x4 sheet material down, you will always have a cross member, or again if this was a studded wall, you'd have an upright which falls directly in the center of the end of that sheet material. So first job we're going to do is to mark and cut two of these outside end pieces. So obviously I've got one for here, one for the other end. The width of the workshop is 1.7 meters, so these two end pieces are going to be obviously 1.7 meters. Okay, so once we've cut those end pieces, the next thing to do is to cut the cross members. So the cross members are going to sit inside both of these pieces at either end, and so that measurement is 157.5 centimeters. So I've got quite a few of those to cut. So let me just show you how I'm marking this out. So I've got 157.5 centimeters. So just put a little indentation on the wood itself, and then because this is basically stud work and it's got to be accurate but not that accurate, I'm actually using the handsaw as a straight edge to mark it out. So for those that don't know, on a standard handsaw you've got the ability to mark at 90 degrees and also at 45 degrees. Again, for stud work it's ideal. Saves you having more kit out than you need, like a set square. So you place that on the line, mark it, and then I always like to put a V showing that especially when I'm using something like an electric circular saw which has quite a thick blade, about 2 to 3 millimeters thick, put this little V in just to let me know that I'm actually cutting on this side of the line. So now that we've cut all of the cross members, the next thing to do is to sort out the length. So the length of the wood we're using is 2.4 meters, and we need to obviously get to 3.6 meters, which is the total length for the workshop. So I'm going to have to join two pieces together. So what we need to do to join two lengths together is I'm going to do what's almost like an overlap joint. So I'm going to join the two pieces like that, but we're going to cut half out of each so that they actually remain flush. So the first thing I've done is measured 100 millimeters and marked the wood all the way around. The next thing I've done is I've found the center, and one of the easiest ways to measure this, and remember it's only stud work so it doesn't have to be 100% accurate, is use your middle finger with a pencil, and so rest your middle finger on the outside edge here, get the pencil to the center so you've got that line, and then mark that up, and then continue that on so that you get a line running all the way down the center. And for me that is by far the easiest way to do it. So once we've done that, the next thing to do, really important, is to mark which is going to be the waste wood. so we don't cut the wrong piece. So next thing to do, we want to join these two pieces of wood together for the longest side of the workshop. So all I've done, put them together, put a straight edge down the side just to make sure that one of them isn't offline. Drill 3 pilot holes on the diagonal and countersink them. And I'm just going to use some waterproof glue, wood glue. Just place that nice and generously into the centre and then screw these down. So the next thing I'm doing now is I'm drilling all of the wood in order to screw it together. So what I'm doing first is a pilot hole. So this is actually the end, one of the end pieces. So I'm drilling with a, well, this is maybe a 3mm drill bit, wood drill bit, and then drilling about a third or just over a third of the way into the wood with a 10mm drill bit. And what that does is it will allow the screw head to actually sink into the wood itself. So what will happen is it will be able to penetrate into the piece of wood it's going into even deeper and make it more secure. So 2 holes in that end, 2 holes in that end, and then in the cross members I've marked the 16-inch centres. So I'm going to drill exactly the same process, just 1 drill hole through there, again with that 10mm bit as well to allow the screw to sit into this piece of wood. And I'm going to join all of it together. Okay, so this is where we're up to. I've screwed down the outside of the frame. I've used a large square just to help me with the corners. The next thing to do is I'm just going to check that the frame is actually square, which means that from the furthest point at the opposite end, the corner, to this nearest point, and then from that point to that point over there measures the same. So I'm going to put a tape measure on that corner over there, bring it down to here, see what the measurement is from to there, and then place the tape measure up onto that corner and measure into that corner to see if those 2 measurements are the same. If they are, it means the frame's square and I can carry on and put the cross members in. I've lifted the frame off the floor just on some of the cross members just to make it easier to use the drill to screw the screws in. So that's where the screws have gone in at either end. So as I said, the next thing to do now is to put all of the cross members in. Okay, so this is where we're up to. The frame for the base is done. So I've got these cross members in here because this is where the cut is going to end for the OBS3 sheeting that I'm putting down. So again, I've measured to the centre, so this piece of OBS will come to the centre of those cross members, and then when I put this one in, that'll have wood support underneath it as well to screw down to. And then this is our cutout for the surface water down pipe. Now again, I just made the frame as though there wasn't a cutout, and I've just added some additional frame in there and then cut out. That's the beauty about doing this type of work, you can alter it as much as you like. So the next step is I've got the OBS3 sheet delivered, that came this morning, so I'm just going to start cutting that with a circular saw. I'm then going to obviously place the cuts onto the frame, countersink, drill some pilot holes, countersink, and then screw down into place. So the floor's now done, everything's all fastened in place. I'm going to be building the walls in exactly the same way, the same method as I've done the floor, only the centres on the uprights or the struts are going to be 24 inches, not 16, because it's not load bearing. It doesn't need to be as substantial as the floor. So just before I start to build the walls, I'm going to be treating the underside of the floor with some wood preservative. Now I could have used pressure treated wood in order to do the floor, or put the floor on what's called sacrifice timbers that will rot away, but the floor will stay intact. However, that would have doubled the price of the timber cost for the floor. I knew that I already had some wood preservative timber treatment left, so I just wanted to keep the cost down as much as possible. It's a little bit more work, but I'm not too bothered about that. So I'm going to treat all the underside with the wood preservative. I'm then going to place in some insulation in the floor, and then the floor is completely done then. Okay, so this is one of the sides now complete, the frame. I've already cut the OBS sheeting, and these cross members here, that's just where the OBS cut ends, so we've got something to nail to. So again, these are 24-inch centres, not 16-inch as they were for the base. Obviously that's because it doesn't need that much strength in the side. So I'm going to attach the OBS to the frame now. The light's it's getting quite dark now, so I should be able to do that, and then tomorrow I'm going to do the other side, the front and the rear of the workshop, and then maybe another day we'll get the roof on.